Well, now we're done with that RE6 nonsense.
Halfway up the mountain ahead, there's a brightly lit area.
Now
Considering
we
we're
are
under a
going
global
to
power
this
outage,
game's
I'd say
idea
that's a
of
very good
getting
indication
Japan
of
in
enemy
here
presence.
without actually
You and
being in
Delta should
Japan.
recon the sector ASAP.
Oh, wow. That
Yep.
is a stretch.
Yeah. Also, this island is technically our way of getting some of Russia in without actually going to Russia, just because of like some of the architecture that we went through, like outside of this level we're about to go to.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Hideo Kojima needs to start suing people because... Okay, so she's like 10, and he's already in his mid-20s or 50s by the looks of things.
Yeah.
That just makes this all the creepier.
Yeah. Also, Ivan, I'm gonna say, like, looks even more like a douche, like, before he got his glasses.
Yeah.
Like, the tattoos, like, they don't work without them. Like, once you have the sunglasses on, it's like, and being shirtless, it goes from still kind of douchey, but at least the funny kind.
Yeah. It's like, as he is now, it's like, yes, I am a douche, but I'm owning it.
Yeah, exactly. And
you
all
can
it took
kind of
was
respect that.
All it took was for him to give himself over to the US to finally, like, embrace that.
And they say the American government does nothing for anyone.
Fall back. Sam, get a charge on it.
So yeah, and there was like a bit of dialogue that like kind of confirmed this, but the whole reason this like Japanese tourist looking thing exists is like, well, it's because it's for tourists. Like, it is not meant for like any sort of like, it's not there for any sort of like practical reason. It's just for the aesthetic.
So that means we're going to enter the Vaporwave Temple of Honoji around the corner, right?
All set. Take cover.
Well, we can still see Brat Fuji in the background, which, yes, that is its name. They decided to call the big blue volcano Fuji.
I mean, 10 out of 10 for trying to sell people on it.
Yeah. Oh, and if you think the Japaneseness is like extra silly in this case, just wait until we get to the start of the next video, because it also has to do with like the blue lava and shit coming from Brat Fuji.
Oh god, I can't remember what game it was, but there was a game I was playing a while back that had like neon blue lava in it.
Oh man.
Cannot remember what it is now, but yeah, it was just like regular lava as you'd see in any other game, except instead of red it was blue, and I'm like, what the Christ is going on here?
Yeah.
We can reach street level from here.
So this mission is the best one in the game. I could say that like de facto, and like it's not just purely because this is like a Japanese as hell aesthetic, but it's also because I think it has like some of like the better like and like some of the best pacing and like interesting combat encounter design. There's one in particular, like a couple rooms up ahead, that I think is like a really good example of this. And funny enough, like this was actually the level that was demoed on like Nintendo's E3 2014 Treehouse Live, back when they revealed that this game was still alive and that they were publishing it. And people were like, what? Why?
Sorry, we assumed this was a joke?
Yeah. And Itagaki wasn't even there to like really talk up a big game about it. I guess he was still back in Japan working on it, while like other like producers and stuff, like maybe on the Nintendo side, were like, yeah, this game.
So we're gonna try and show off this game to the best of our abilities, but turns out we know shit about it. So enjoy.
And that's why they did not have it on the Treehouse Live the next year.
I remember hearing a rumor that after they showed that, that a lot of people actually cancelled their pre-orders.
Is that a cat?
It was more like Nintendo of America was actively considering not bringing it over. But now we got TAC-Ninjas. They make the return from Ninja Gaiden 2.
Oh, yay! They're not annoying at all.
No, I mean, like, they were one of the better enemies in Ninja Gaiden 2 anyway, except sans the rocket launcher variant.
Yeah, I just hated them overall. They were... I don't know what it was, I could just never get to grips with them.
Yeah, but I love them, just from the design and also the fact that, like, especially going back to just Ninja Gaiden 2 from my comparison point of view, is that, like, they were still ninja enemies, so therefore fun. But, like, this is what I'm talking about, being one of the most standout design encounters. Notice the verticality on display.
Yeah, that's not something you see in games even today.
Yeah, like, we've seen it, like, for the past 4 missions, like, even in some of the encounters that are, like, more, like, open, like a couple of the ones in Mission 3, for example, they still did not have, like, this, like multi-level design to them, because I'm sticking mostly to the roofs here, but you don't have to. Like, they'll still follow you down to the street level if you decide to go down there and, like, get some cover. And this is like one of those instances where I do look at it, and for as much as I enjoyed, like, going through this game in score tag and using its combat mechanics to, like, the fullest, that area right there really was one of, if not the only ones that showed, like, how good it can really get when you take mobility into the equation. Because it's closest to, like, what it's like when you played the multiplayer, because there was, like, a whole lot of verticality to those maps.
See, I think the problem is that when you start introducing multiple layers, like, a lot of game design is based around very tight arenas and showing off the battles as much as they can. And when you start adding in verticality and multiple layers and that sort of thing, the options for combat start increasing exponentially. So you start losing control of what the players can do, because they can do practically anything they want.
That is definitely valid, especially with, like, the common frustration of, like, most players, like, need to be actively trained to look up.
Yes. Yeah, what was it? Gabe Newell famously saying that gamers never look up.
Yeah.
Which is why the barnacles were such a thing.
And then, of course, when you play anything by Arcane, it's like they basically expect you to, like, know how to look up. Otherwise, they'll be like, "What? Are you an idiot?"
What do you mean you're not jumping from lamppost to lamppost? Are you insane?
No, you're not supposed to listen to the guy saying you can't go upstairs. What are you, like, a law-abiding citizen? You're a goddamn assassin.
We've given you the ability to climb walls. Start doing it.
That Dishonored, like, playtesting story still gets me every goddamn time. The fact that someone literally took, like a guard in that party mission, like, you took his words to face value. It's like, no! You're not even technically supposed to be there. You're a fugitive.
Yeah. It's just funny watching, because I played it completely blind. So every opportunity I could, I would go outside a building, scale it from the outside, and then work my way in. And watching other people play it, where it's just like any kind of, first-person shooter of the time, where they just walk in the front door and be like, "Oh no, everything's gone horribly wrong." I'm like, you people need to think bigger. What is wrong here? This is frustrating.
I would like to point out, with this particular combat section, it was the one that took me the most, like, reloading of backup saves, because this is, like, trying to, like, charge through it head first is impossible without Enbaku. Because we kind of go back into having some of the more narrow corridors, but the part that really gets me is when we go through this door right here.
Oh,
look how quickly we went down.
Move.
Yeah, it's real dickish. But hey, we get a whole bunch of the survivor bonuses. But because of that, we kind of have to rely more on using the guns to sustain the Enbaku, because... So, mechanics theory time. I call this theory because I have no scientific proof whether or not this is the case. I'm basing this purely on what I felt as I was playing through this for the LP.
Okay.
So, Dealing attacks and killing enemies contributes to extending your Enbaku timer. The only things that don't contribute to it are explosive kills, or, as we actually just demonstrated, anytime you use a fixed turret.
Still kicking.
However, my theory extending from that is that depending on what type of attack you use to deal damage and kill, there are different amounts of time extensions to your Enbaku. And I think it's meant to be inversely proportional to the point values you get for those different kills. So, any type of damage you deal with a bullet, not just like heavy automatic weapons, will give you back the most Enbaku timer, as evident by those particles that come off of enemies. And it becomes less when you use regular melee weapons, and then slightly less when you use just hand-to-hand. That's how I like to think it is, because I feel during practice runs, I've had situations where the timer still ran out on me slightly earlier than others, and that I think was an instance where I was focusing solely on just hand-to-hand and not using guns in between. Which then begs the question, on top of that, if rockets and explosive kills do not contribute to it, then why the hell are they not worth more points than they are? Because you could probably count on one hand at this point the amount of times I've used any type of grenades or explosive weapons thus far.
Yeah, it's usually just been on the bigger guys, or like when you've been forced to, like with the grenade turret.
Mm-hmm. I made Ivan take a drink because that was also another section where it took a whole lot of retries, and I needed some catharsis for. Oh god, thank goodness I got through that bit, through that fucking section. But yeah, it's like, I feel if there was one major change I would want to make to this game's scoring system, because a lot of it does a good job in actually encouraging its core idea, is that I would make it so that any explosive kills would be 1,000 points by default, and therefore 2,000 points when you use them during Enbaku.
I think maybe the reason why they don't give so many for explosive kills is probably because it's easier to get a multi-kill with them.
Yeah,
so,
but that's why you have the limited stock of explosives already.
Yeah, it's just that's the only reason I can think of, is that they didn't want you to get too high a score too easily, which, bullshit.
That, or it might have just been like a brief oversight or something. I don't know. I was about to say it was an oversight because of trying to be similar in point values to any other guns, but then I remembered that, oh yeah, just regular firearms are worth 100 points on the kill. So I have no idea. It's and because of the fact that you have less ammo for those, wouldn't you think that would still lend itself to encouraging a risky playstyle if you are trying to fish for those high points but have limited ammunition to do so?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
I know, I get the feeling that maybe they didn't put as much thought into... Yay, kitty!
Yeah.
Put as much thought into that as they probably should have.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose, but it's still kind of surprising that was the oversight, considering the rest of this scoring system is so good. Not just so good, but I would say, it might be, my favorite scoring system in any Itagaki-directed game. Better than even the Ninja Gaiden ones. And I love Ninja Gaiden 1's scoring system because it makes it, part of the challenge is that it's basically a time attack, because you have a timer for individual battles. But they took out the individual timers in Ninja Gaiden 2, and that made the scoring system way worse because it just incentivized UT spam even more than people already claimed it did for the series. Minigun time. This and if you recall that homing missile launcher that we used early on in Mission 2. The funny thing is that these are weapons that you actually got to use in multiplayer, but they are colored blue on your HUD because they were basically the Enbaku replacement for that mode. Because Enbaku, with its slowdown on kills, it wouldn't really work in multiplayer. So rather than building up a meter to unlock it, you basically built up that meter to get, your choice of special heavy weaponry, be it like a chain gun or the lock-on missile launcher or other ones that I am currently forgetting because it has been years since I played the multiplayer and it's dead, so I can't go back and check.
It's like a kill streak sort of reward.
Pretty much, yeah. It basically kind of was, though it wasn't so strict in the sense that you had to get like the specific kill streak in those moments, like before dying. I think it was basically like X number of kills to fill up the meter, as long as you got those kills and like not anything else. I kind of kept forgetting which doors were the ones you had to go through a couple of times.
The game's not really specific about that, is it?
Well, I mean, like, it has, like, the heads-up display indicator for where it is, but the problem is that it does not pop up instantly as soon as the last enemy goes down.
Plus, whenever there's any kind of Japanese building in games, I always... with the sliding doors and that, I always wind up getting really confused as to what's a door and what's just a wall.
Yeah. This bit I like a lot, mostly for like the music that we get in the background, because this serves as a pretty solid long lead up to the boss of this mission.
Yeah, this bit is Ninja Gaiden as hell.
Oh yeah. We even get ninja swords, which are technically different from katanas, which makes the distinction I found, like, especially amusing when you consider that Ryu Hayabusa, like, famed video game ninja, doesn't even use, like, a ninja sword in the same way that, like, these are, It's a regular-ass katana. This is also the room in which, we've seen these TAC-Ninjas already with, like, the red, like, lenses, but we get introduced to ones that have blue lenses, and they are, in terms of defense, they are basically halfway between, like, regular soldiers' health and the big, the big heavy soldiers, like you see with the Gatling guns and other weapons.
Plus, they're blue, so they look spookier.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way to know which one's which. It's also an easy thing to tell after you play this game for a good number of while? The shitty blood decal that shows up on enemies all over their body is actually the best way to tell when they are open for a melee kill. This was a bit confusing because this door was not getting the open prompt, so I was like, what the heck? Where's the last enemy? But then I realized the game decided to glitch on me.
Oh boy.
Thankfully, he was not totally out of reach. Otherwise, I would have had to reload this entire, like backup save I made, which would have been real frustrating.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to rag on the game for that, like, glitches in games happen.
Yeah, and to be fair, that was the only time I had ever seen that glitch happen. It had never occurred to me at all on, like, the original hardware, so the fact that this was on an emulator was extra funny. Yeah.
Also, talking about the blood decals, the way it slides down the wall like gravy, that is impressive.
Oh yeah, well that's like a different type of decal. I'm talking about when you look at the enemy character model, it's like you see like kind of like those dark red, almost black splotches just cover the entire body. Like the thing about those is like obviously they're pretty ugly because they don't correlate at all to where you shot them on their model. But again, because it's consistent in how much it shows up each time you deal damage to them, that really is the best way to tell, okay, I shot him enough times, I can get the melee kill and guarantee invulnerability. So here's Jane Doe, our third SOD boss fight.
I heard about Big Mouth.
Yeah, you can tell this is an Itagaki game.
Yeah.
A widow.
And also because of how the hats work and the fact that they don't carry over when you reload checkpoints, I unfortunately was not able to bring over the cat head throughout the rest of this mission because otherwise these cutscenes are hilarious.
I am sorely disappointed.
Yeah. You can actually watch Iconoclast's
moves so much
video
better in the
of this mission, because while he skips most of the cutscenes, he leaves these ones in because of how hilarious they are.
Oh, so she's
That
a screamer
meteorite
then.
is supposed to be behind the mountain. That is not supposed to be in the foreground. Bad emulator. Bad. So the first phase of this fight is not really about dealing damage to Jane, but just getting rid of these enemies. But that's fine, because we can farm the hell out of more points with Enbaku. And Survivor, because we keep getting close to death every time, but that's to our advantage. There is actually a bit of a risk to taking damage in Enbaku, and that is that it will take away some of your timer as a result. It's more evident if you get hit with melee attacks that leave you staggered, because you can't do anything to keep dealing damage in return. So, like, it's not totally busted. I mean, it kind of is, but, like, it's busted in the same way that a lot of your mechanics in Ninja Gaiden 2 were busted, in that they were key to your survival. You can't really call the game bullshit, because the game gives you even bigger bullshit to fight back against it. So that makes it totally valid.
Yeah, it's just a matter of working out the timing and the mechanics to bend the game to your will.
Yeah. So this is how the Jane Doe fight works. And there's actually a fight later in the game that works under the same principle. Unlike Saha, where it is very explicitly about you using only melee weapons, this is a fight where it actually encourages you to combine both of your, like, gun and melee tool sets. Which I think actually, like, even though I don't think it's, like, the best quality one, because, again, Saha and the final boss qualify for that, I think this is, like, a better way of demonstrating, like, how you're supposed to treat, like, the gun and melee playstyles, in that they aren't separate playstyles. They're meant to be used as one and the same. So you have to basically use your gun to deal damage, because any sort of melee strike is too slow and will, like, trigger Jane to dodge out of it automatically. There's sometimes you can get melee hits in, but it's super rare. But the idea is to pepper her with enough bullets that she'll visibly stagger, and that's when you can get the melee shots in, or more gun bullets in. Either way, because they still deal a lot of damage either way.
Yeah, I noticed when you were attacking her with the sword, she was actually bending backwards, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, this part was a bit scary because I didn't have Enbaku, and flames can still damage you, but I made it.
Jane,
Did you like my cat mask from
where's
earlier?
the sword base?
Was it kawaii? Is that what the kids say?
The kids do not say anything of the sort. You are a deviant.
If you want to know more, ask the prisoner in the rhenium plant. He'll tell you.
Rhenium, an actual metal, or rather an actual atomic element.
C4 hit her deformity.
That's a plot point that really only gets emphasized in the next video, as you'll find, and not much else beyond that.
She worshipped you.
But the way it's emphasized, I find especially
My
hilarious.
eyes can see everything, but can change nothing.
Well, this seems remarkably
If you want to
gratuitous.
kill me,
Yeah.
kill me. Life,
Awesome rack on her, though.
death,
Ah, true that.
it's all the same.
And now, over the wall.
Need darkness.
So yeah, Jane
That's where
Doe
you'll
is the
find
only
the
high-level
light.
SOD member that we spare.
Yeah, but by the sounds of it, she's going to be dead soon anyway from, you know, massive tumors.
Fair, yeah. So yeah, that was the Red Light District. Best level of the game. In terms of objective quality, but technically I would say it is not my favorite level. It's my second favorite. The actual favorite is much closer to the end of the game, and it's purely because of how buttfuck ridiculous it gets. But you'll have to wait for that.